So today I'll be continuing with my college football game by game prediction and roster discussion videos. Today I'll be doing the Illinois Fighting Illini. Illinois' recruiting did improve after having the good year, but it still wasn't very good. So in 2024, Brett Bielema had the 52nd ranked recruiting class in the country. And then in 2025, he had the 44th ranked recruiting class. But the 2025 recruiting class still didn't have any 5 or 4-star players. So starting on the offensive side of the ball, they weren't very good here last year. They only averaged 26.1 points per game, but I think they've got a good chance to improve on that this year. Luke Altmaier returns at quarterback for his third season as a starter. And
This alive. Rutgers showing blitz. Double A gap blitz. They bring the house. Here's the throw. Hit as he throws. It's caught by Bryant. First down. 15, 10. House call.
while Luke Altmaier is not a great quarterback, and I don't think he's going to play in the NFL, he had a decent year last year, throwing for 2,717 yards and 22 touchdowns, and he only threw 6 interceptions. He completed 60.8% of his passes and had a 7.8 yards per throw average. And at wide receiver, they do lose their top two from last year, Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, but they did bring in a transfer wide receiver from West Virginia, Hudson Clement, and he's good. I remember watching him in West Virginia's bowl game last season, and he really impressed me. He had in 12 games last year 51 catches for 741 and 5 touchdowns, averaging 14.5 a catch. But he's going to need some help at wide receiver, and I'm not convinced that Illinois has much help for him. So at running back, they do lose Josh McCray, who transferred out this spring. He was good for them last year. But they do have two pretty good running backs coming back. They've got Aiden Lawfery, who played in 12 games last year and had 97 carries for 589 and 4 touchdowns, averaging 6.1 a carry. He's expected to be the starting running back, and they've got Caden Fegan, who only had 67 carries last year for 306 and 3 touchdowns. He averaged at 4.6 a carry, but he only played in 5 games because of a season-ending injury. He'll be running back at number two. And on the offensive line, Illinois doesn't only have all 5 starters back, but 4 of them are future NFL players. Left tackle J.C. Davis and left guard Josh Geske and center Josh Kreutz and right tackle Melvin Priest Lee. But Illinois' offensive line did allow 32 sacks last season, which was not great, and they averaged 4.4 yards a run last year, which is okay, but not great. Illinois' offensive line didn't play well as a team until late in the season last year. So now on the defensive side, Illinois took a big step forward here last year from where they were the year before. Last year they gave up on average only at 19.9 points per game. And Illinois' defensive line, though, is questionable. They lose all 3 starters, and they've redone it completely with the transfer portal. But the transfers they brought in weren't great players where they came from. The defensive line, I think, is going to determine how Illinois' defense is this year. If these transfers turn out to be good, I think their defense could possibly be even better than it was last year. But if the transfers aren't very good, it'll probably be more like an average defense. And then at linebacker, they've got Gabe Jacobs coming back, who could possibly be an All-American linebacker. He had last year 74 tackles and 8 sacks and 30 total quarterback pressures and 3 forced fumbles. He's a future NFL linebacker for sure. And then they've got Dylan Rozeke coming back, a 2-year starter at linebacker. He played in 9 games last year because of an injury. He didn't get to play in 4 of the games, but he had in the 9 games he played in 63 tackles and 1.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and a pass breakup. And then in the secondary, they returned all three starting corners, including Xavier Scott, who's a really good player, a senior. He had last year 49 tackles and 6 pass breakups and 4 interceptions and one for a touchdown and a sack. And then at safety, they're going to be very good. They return both starting safeties who are both very good players. Matthew Bailey, who had last year 94 tackles and 7 pass breakups and 2 forced fumbles and an interception, and Miles Scott, who had last year 55 tackles and 4 pass breakups and 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. He's a senior at safety. So now for the game by game predictions, starting with Western Illinois, this will be a big blowout win for Illinois. They'll win this game, I would think, by at least 45 points, and they'll be able to put their second string in for the whole second half. Now on the road at Duke, Duke doesn't have much of a run game, but they did bring in a decent quarterback from Tulane, and they've got a better wide receiver room than Illinois does, and they've got a lot coming back from what was a good defense last year. Duke's front seven, I think, is going to be good enough to slow down Illinois' run game some. And you have to remember that, like Illinois, Duke was a surprise team that went 9-3 in the regular season. I actually have a feeling that Duke is going to pull this upset with the game being at Duke. I'm going to go with Duke to get a close win. So now Western Michigan. Western Michigan is better than Western Illinois. So while I think this will be a blowout win for Illinois, uh, it probably won't be a huge blowout, but Illinois should have a comfortable enough lead by the beginning of the fourth quarter to where they can put their second string in. Now on the road at Indiana. So Indiana's offensive line, I think, is going to be good, and they've got a pretty good running back room. I think they'll be able to run on Illinois. And while Illinois' secondary does return everybody, it wasn't great last year. They only ranked at 78th at stopping the pass, so they will need to play better as a team in this game because Indiana returns. I mean, they bring in a transfer quarterback that's better than Luke Altmaier is, and they've got Elijah Sarrett at wide receiver, one of the Big Ten's best wide receivers. And it is concerning for Illinois in this game that they did have some struggles in pass protection because Indiana has Makai Kamara coming back, who is the best pass rusher in the country. And if any coach did a better job last year with the roster that he had, it was than Brett Bielema did. It was Kirk from Indiana. And with this game being on the road, I think Indiana gets this win in a close one. So now USC. So Brett Bielema and Lincoln Riley are much different football coaches. Brett Bielema doesn't develop Heisman quarterbacks and a bunch of NFL wide receivers like Lincoln Riley does, but he tries to develop a strong offensive line to where they can mostly run the football during the game and control the clock and try to play good defense. And I think Illinois is going to be able to do that in this game. I think they're going to have a lot of success at running the football against what I don't think is going to be a very good USC front seven. And USC, I do think will make some big plays running and passing in this game, but Illinois got a better defense than they do, I think. And with the game being at Illinois, Illinois, I think it gets this win. Illinois, I also think has a line of scrimmage advantage over USC. And then on the road at Purdue, of course, I think Illinois will win this game. But this was a strange game last year. Illinois did win the game, but Purdue almost upset them. Illinois won it 50-49 in overtime. So that's surprising, knowing how good Illinois was last year and how bad Purdue was. So I won't say there's no way Purdue could pull this upset, but Purdue's going to have pretty much a completely different roster this year, and they've got a new coach, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing they hired a new coach because they were probably the worst coach team in the country last year. But all of Purdue's good players, which weren't very many, transferred out. So I don't think there's much of a chance that Purdue can be much better this year. I think Illinois actually wins this one fairly easily. So now Ohio State. So Illinois' offensive line, I think, can probably handle Ohio State for a while in this game, but I don't think they can hold up with them for 4 quarters. I think Illinois will be able to have some success running the football for a while in this game, but Illinois' defensive line, I don't think can handle Ohio State's offensive line very well. And Ohio State's wide receivers, I think, will make some big plays for them in this game. And I think this one will be close into the fourth quarter, but Ohio State will pull away and win by about 2 touchdowns. Uh, so now, Washington, I think this is going to be a close game. I think Washington's offensive line can handle Illinois' defensive line, but probably not control them. But I think they'll be able to run some with their great running back, Jonah Coleman. But I don't think that Washington's defensive line can handle Illinois' offensive line very well, and I don't think they'll be able to slow down Illinois' run game. And like Illinois, Washington has one good wide receiver, but other than that, they don't have a wide receiver that scares anybody. And Illinois got a much more experienced quarterback than Washington does. So I'm going to go with Illinois to get this win. So now Rutgers, this is going to be a close one too. The two teams are pretty similar in my opinion. Their defenses are pretty similar, and the quarterback is pretty similar. Although I think Luke Altmaier is a little bit better than Ethan Manis at Rutgers. And Rutgers, like Illinois, returns a strong offensive line, and I think they'll have a good run game. And Rutgers has a better wide receiver room than Illinois does, I think. But it really comes down to home field advantage for me with this one. And the team with that is Illinois. So I'm going with Illinois to get the win. So now, Maryland, a team that has got an almost completely new roster and is not recruiting very well or doing very well in the transfer portal. I think Illinois got an advantage over them at the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think Illinois will win this one by a couple of scores. So now on the road at Wisconsin, this one I think is going to be close. Wisconsin brought in a transfer quarterback that is better than Luke Altmaier is, I think. But Wisconsin isn't very good at wide receiver either. Like Illinois, they've got one pretty good one, but other than that, they don't have one that would scare anybody. And then at the offensive line and running back room, I think Illinois is better than Wisconsin. And I think this is a good matchup for Illinois because Wisconsin's not very good in the front seven. I think Illinois will be able to run the football pretty well in this game and get the win. So now Northwestern, this will probably be a pretty close game. Northwestern's defensive line, I think, is better than Illinois is, so they may be able to slow down Illinois' run game a little bit. But Northwestern's offensive line is not as good as Illinois is, and Northwestern has no run game really, and Northwestern's not as good as the secondary as Illinois is. So I'm going to go with Illinois to get this win. So my prediction for Illinois is 9-3 overall and 7-2 in the conference. So this wouldn't get them to the college football playoff, but I would say that this would still be another very good season for Illinois. I don't think there's much of a chance they could do any better than this, but there is a chance they could lose a couple more games than I've got them losing to. So that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.